All right, sweet. So I've noticed in sixth period as well as in your guys's class that in making, or why can't I edit this? Hold on. What's going on? Oh, because it's not visible. That'll do it. Okay. Something that I've noticed is that you guys are experimenting a lot, which is great. That's what I'm looking for. Just seeing what you guys can find, kind of digging around this software. That is one of the points of this logo assignment. That's why it's also okay if your logo is more on the simple side. It does not have to be a sports mascot or anything too crazy. Simplicity is good, especially in graphic design. There's a line where you tread where it's like too simple, but since you guys are learning, we're not concerned with that at this point. We'll talk about that more later as we understand these programs in a little bit more depth. So, like for example, if you don't want if you're trying to make a more complex pen shape or a more complex brush shape, something that's a little bit more accurate, like you're doing, I don't know, not those. I've seen some students who have kind of this very gentle, like arrow sort of situation. What else? Trying to make something like cartoon smoke happen. You know, there's a lot of different experimentations that we could be doing here with the different tools. But if you're trying to fill in a pen or a brush path, because we haven't technically covered any of the pen tool yet, brush paths are pretty hard to fill in. So if I just scribble a little bit here and I try to set a fill on this, I didn't have it selected. Let me try that again. If I try to set a fill on this, it's not going to behave exactly the way that I want it to. Or for example, if I was making something like a ticket, like a little ticket sort of icon, I'd have some of these curves that come around. And if I duplicated, not that. Hold Alt to click and drag. Give me just a second to make this look like a ticket. Control C, Control V. Then we're going to spin this guy around. And then just use the brush tool, all sticking with the brush tool like this. So if we imagine this is like a ticket, like a raffle ticket or something to get into an event where there actually are still paper tickets, we just put a little admit 1 here. If I were trying to fill in this back portion, this is all made up of a bunch of disjointed paths. They're not connected to one another. And so if I try to fill these, it's just hold shift and click to select on all of them. If I try to fill those in, it's not going to do what I want it to, right? There's a thing that you can do in Illustrator called join, where you have a variety of different paths working together, and you can connect them together so that they become more of a polygon, a more fully closed shape. So if I take my text out here, we just move this guy. If I'm holding shift and I'm clicking on all the different paths that I've created for my artwork, whatever that may be, I can go up here to this object menu, right? It's the third from the left, right next to edit and type. And if you go to object, there's all types of different things that you can change about a specific object that you have selected. You can either make an object or you can change the way that it's shaped. You can focus on the path specifically, which is what I'm going to do for this example right here. If you focus on path, because each of these are individual paths by themselves, if you go path and then join, it doesn't look like anything happens. However, it takes all of those different pieces, all of those different sketched sections, and turns them into one full polygon. So now if I were to fill that in, it would fill a lot more like you would expect. All right. So the term polygon, remember, is a shape that has a close. It doesn't have any open ends. We're going to keep up with that same type of language in graphic design because it is important to know. Oh, this is going to be hard to see because it's red on red. Let's do blue. There we go. So this may look like a complete polygon, but it's not actually, because these two aren't connected. You can still see that the fill is taking like the path of least resistance from the start point to the end point. So if I had a brush stroke in between these two, don't know if that joins it or not, actually. Okay, that just joins it, of course. Let me make it so that it doesn't just connect. Let's put it in between like this. Okay, two separate paths, right? We have this tiny one and then we have the large one that's filled in with blue. If I hold shift and I click on the smaller one, and I go to object, path, join, did not do what I thought it would. I wonder what happened. Okay. So it joined the outside edge and the short one, but it did not take the fill like I was anticipating. So we'll take our direct selection tool. Remember, that's A on your keyboard. It's the one that's like more filled in with white up here. I can click and drag, or I can double click on this anchor point and I can manipulate this one by itself. You can see that this little section is that part that we joined just a second ago. There's another set of anchor points right here to here, and that is that second little piece that we connected together. So if we do that one more time, I can also draw from anchor point to connect them together like this. That works very similarly to join, and now it's gotten, we have these extra anchor points that we can manipulate by double clicking on them, moving them around, changing that like mathematical expression. Right? All while still being a polygon that we can fill in that will behave like it should, or like you expect it to, at least. So joining paths together is one thing. If you're trying to fill something in, try object path join. Another thing I want to emphasize, let me get rid of this blob over here. Another thing I want to emphasize is thinking about how your, if you think back to the week before break, how your basic shapes can make up something that's a lot more, it's like greater than the sum of its parts, right? So if I take my ellipse tool, which is L on my keyboard, and then I click and drag while holding shift, I'm going to make it not red. Let's go with like a skyline green, should be right around here. Okay. We'll just move this because it's ugly. I have just a simple circle, and then I hold Alt and click and drag to make a copy of that circle. And then I add a triangle underneath. To make a triangle, you take the polygon tool, which does not have a key shortcut like M or L for rectangle or ellipse. You take the polygon tool and then just click once. It's going to ask you if you want to make a 6-sided polygon, a hexagon. We don't want that. We want a 3-sided polygon, which is otherwise known as a triangle. And it's going to automatically create this equilateral triangle that's really nice for us to use. However, if I hold shift while I rotate, that's going to snap that triangle to a, I think it's 15-degree increments. I don't know. Maybe it's 45. Let's see. 270 to 315 is in fact 45. Okay. So if I hold shift and click and drag to rotate, that's going to snap it at a 45-degree angle. And then if I don't hold shift while I resize, that's going to allow me to freely transform this triangle, make it a little bit more isosceles. And if I put it with my 2 circles, I've created an ice cream cone out of 3 very simple shapes. Now, it still needs some more detail, and that's something that will come with time, and that will add with time. But at least I'm communicating the idea that this could be an ice cream cone or a torch or something like, we'll stick with the ice cream cone so I can make some more things here. Okay, so all green is not typical set of colors for an ice cream cone. And it's typical that the ice cream is going to appear that it belongs inside of the cone. But if yours is looking something like this, where the ice cream is in front of the cone, or the second scoop is on top of the first in a way that maybe you're not looking for, there's an idea of using Illustrator that the thing that you make in order kind of stacks on top of the other ones. So if I make my red circle first, or my red rectangle first, or red square, for example. Okay, so I drew the red square first, and then if I were to make a blue, or actually let's go green. Come on. There we go. Let's go green ellipse. If I make that second, it goes over top of the first thing. And then if I make a blue triangle, click and hold on the polygon tool and then just click once. Let me change the fill so that it's blue. Nope, not that actually. Polygon tool, click, 3-sided polygon, change the fill color to blue. Since that's the third thing that I've made, oops, V on my keyboard to get the selection tool, it's going to stack on top of the other 2. So anytime you do something, it adds it not in a new layer entirely, but it puts it on top of the other pieces that came before it. If you ever want to change the order of these pieces, you can right click on the thing that you're trying to adjust and go down here to arrange. And arrange allows you to bring that shape forward in the stack, backwards in the stack, or you can bring it all the way to the top or push it all the way to the bottom. So if I send this backward, since triangle is number 3 and green circle is number 2, if I send this backward, it's going to put green triangle number 3 behind, or sorry, blue triangle number 3 behind green circle number 2, and it's going to keep consistently appearing that way no matter the order of these 3 shapes here. So if I were to right click on blue triangle, or I have to select it first with left click so I can see my bounding box. If I right click on blue triangle and I go arrange and then send to back, it's going to go behind everything that I've put on this artboard so far. So it's going to be behind the ticket, behind the text, behind the logo. It's going to be behind all of it because it's in the very bottom of the stack order. Same thing is true for the front. If I right click and I go on arrange, you can also go to object arrange. But if you right click and arrange, bring that to the front, it's going to appear in front of everything. It's not helpful that it doesn't have any type of visual that it's moving forward or backward. It's just something that's, while you're doing it, you got to be aware or thinking about what's the last shape that I created, right? So if I go arrange, send backward, it's going to go behind the green. If I go arrange, send to back, it's going to go behind the red. And if I go on this red square and I go arrange, bring to front, it puts it in front of everything. So if you're finding that your shapes are not overlaying each other like you want them to, or maybe you want to go for a different look of some type, let me go arrange, bring to front. You can use that arrange menu to more accurately create the thing that you're trying to create. There's a couple other tools I wanted to show you. If you're working with arcs, since we haven't covered the pen tool, if you click and hold on this line segment tool, which is right next to the type tool, excuse me, the hiccups. If you click on this line segment tool, you get access to the arc tool, the spiral tool, and then a bunch of other stuff that we're not going to focus on for now. But anytime you see that little white triangle underneath of an Illustrator tool, that means you can click and hold on it in order to access some more stuff. So with the arc tool, it's going to automatically create a curved line for you that is going to start at the point you clicked at and end at the point that you drag to. Same rule applies. If you're holding shift, it's going to keep that in a perfect sort of ratio, maintaining an equal curve around the entire thing. But if you don't hold shift, you can just freely kind of mess around with these and make maybe like whiskers or something. If you're doing a creature of some kind, maybe you're adding hair to like a cartoon character, maybe you're making plants or fireworks or something. The curve tool, or the arc tool, I mean, in that line segment tool is a really useful thing that you can try. There's also the spiral tool, which does exactly what it sounds like. It's going to create some spirals. If you hold shift, it doesn't do much besides snapping it to a specific angle, because these spirals are just going to make spirals. It's not much to say about it here, but you can change how thick the line is as well as the line's color by adjusting something called the stroke weight. So if you're in Window Workspace Essentials Classic, you have this little word that right here that says stroke and then this 1 PT right next to it. If I have a shape selected and then I go up here and I increase that stroke weight number, it's going to increase the thickness of my line. So this is a stroke weight of 1, and then the larger one is a stroke weight of 10. So there's a lot of different ways that you can adjust the stroke weight of your shapes. You can do this on rectangles and circles and triangles and any other shape as well by clicking on that same stroke button, increasing that stroke. Let's go up to 15. Let's do 10 on this, or let's do 5 on this one, and then let's do 3 on this one. Remember, you can hit X to switch between your stroke and fill. So I'm hitting X to bring the fill color to the front. Double click it, the stroke color to the front, sorry. Double clicking that stroke color, orange goes with blue. So let's find orange here real quick. It's gonna be kind of here. Orange, red goes with green. I just have these in color so that you can see them a little bit more clearly. Red goes with green, and green's gonna go with red. Oh, this is the fill. Hit X on your keyboard to switch to the stroke. Make green the outside complement color there. Okay, so I know this is not the prettiest thing in the world. Doesn't look like the right colors on the projector, so hopefully the zoom room looks good. Adjusting the stroke weight is going to make your line, your brush strokes more thick or more thin. If you want to go below 1 point, you can make them smaller too, more fine. But at 0 point, they're going to disappear. Right? You can increase the thickness of your brush strokes or increase or decrease the thickness of the outside color on your shape tools. You got the spiral tool, you got the arc tool, file objects or object path join is going to connect different paths together for these more complex sort of shapes. And then you can freely resize this because now it's a vector. You can hold shift to make it much smaller or much larger. It's still going to stay joined as much as it can. Okay. Since everybody's doing a different type of logo, it's hard to do a one-size-fits-all sort of demonstration. However, if you are curious about a certain tool, call me over, or you want to try something, explain your idea, and we can find an Illustrator tool that works for that. It is a little bit of a different process because a lot of Illustrator is just kind of jumping into it and seeing what works, clicking what buttons, figuring out what does what. That was a majority of my starting graphic design career, is just like, let's see if this works. And I want you guys to experience that as well. So you can see how it's, what each tool does, at least face value, and just figure stuff out. Okay, cool. I'm gonna wrap up the Zoom room. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any specific questions, call me over and I am happy to help you find a solution. Thank you.